G'day, welcome to the channel and the build video for my DIY outdoor kitchen. I'm going to go step by step, start to finish, from the empty slab to the finished product you see behind me. There's plenty to do, so let's get into it. This is the area we started with here. I'd always intended to put an outdoor kitchen here back when I built the house a few years ago. You can see the sink's already sitting there. There's already plumbing ready to go for this job. But it's just been one of those things I needed to get around to over the last couple of years, and now is my chance. So first step in the job here is to actually start cutting up timber for the timber frame that's going to sort of frame out the kitchen to provide a bit of shelter, give me somewhere to mount power points and put a TV onto in the future. When I was doing some research online for how I was going to design the project, I noticed quite a few of the builds that I was looking at had the timber frames like directly onto the concrete slab with no damp course or any spacing off the ground. Most of them were American. I don't know what timber they use over there, but in our scenario in Australia, where we get quite a lot of rain in like the north part of Australia, the timber would just rot away pretty quickly. I wanted to try to avoid that, so I wrapped the bottom plate of the frame in what I call damp course. It's basically just quite a thick plastic membrane stapled on, and I'm actually going to space it about 10 mil off the concrete with a tilt panel spacer, which is basically a high density plastic spacer designed for concrete tilt panels to like level them up. So that will keep the bottom plate of the frame off the ground, away from water, and I'll do the same thing with the cladding, and it'll make that timber frame last for a very long time. I decided to clad the frame in corrugated iron because the rest of the buildings on the property are cladded the same. I actually managed to get this stuff for a really good price, which is why it's a different colour to the rest of the property. I wasn't too worried about the colour difference, as it doesn't really clash and it will suit the darker tones of the kitchen. With the wall all cladded, it was time to move on to the kitchen base. I really wanted this kitchen to be very durable, so I don't have to be too worried about anything getting wet or easily damaged. So a traditional laminated ply cabinet wasn't going to be what I wanted. I decided to make a frame using galvanised steel. It's very durable, strong, and I was able to fabricate it in the shed and then carry it to its final location using my tractor. I'll then be able to make the cabinetry to sit inside the steel frame, keep it off the ground and away from moisture. off the kitchen base, I needed to make the concrete bench tops. I needed to allow for the concrete to cure to prevent cracking when moving the bench top to the kitchen. Concrete generally isn't considered fully cured until 28 days after pouring, so I really wanted to make these ahead of time to help speed up the process later. I have made several concrete bench tops in the past using this method and they've all turned out really well. To make the form I use melamine laminated particle board, the material typically used in internal kitchens and bathroom cabinets. It's fairly cheap and gives a nice smooth finish to the bench top face. When using this method, it's really important to remember that the form side face is actually the top side of the bench, so make sure you double check the form before pouring the concrete. I always use some sort of steel reinforcement. I like to use galvanised weld mesh generally. In this case I'm using 25mm or 1-inch mesh, but in the past I've used 50mm or a 2-inch mesh without any issues. For areas that are quite thin, like around the front of the sink, I'll usually add a piece of 10mm reinforcing bar that overlaps past the thin section 200 to 300mm where possible. I also add the same sort of bar every 200 to 300mm if a bench top is overhanging a cabinet, like the one seen in the photo here. I prefer to make my own concrete mix for doing bench tops, opposed to buying a builder's mix from the landscape supply or buying bags of pre-mixed concrete from the hardware store. It gives you better control over the final product, which improves the end result. I mix the concrete using 3 parts of a 10mm stone, 2 parts fine sand and 1 part cement. I've always used white cement and added a white oxide to help create a really nice light coloured bench top instead of the standard grey concrete you'd normally see. There are plenty of good videos on YouTube on how to make concrete bench tops already, but if you want a more in-depth video on the method I use, leave a comment down below, and if there's enough interest I'll make a separate video just for that.
Alright, this is the ply we're going to be using to do the cabinetry in the outdoor kitchen. It's form ply, structural form ply. There is two different types you'll usually see at Bunnings, the non-structural and the structural type. Obviously, the structural stuff's got a better laminate, better veneers, better ply in the actual material, so it'll stay straight better, it'll last longer, it's just a better product. So for this sort of scenario, it's better spending the extra money on good quality form ply. So I've decided to go form ply over probably marine ply would be the other product I was considering using. Marine ply is good. It's probably more expensive than this. What you're really paying for there is a hardwood veneer on the ply. It is technically more water resistant than like a CD pine ply or whatever that veneer they use on like your structural ply. It is nicer looking ply, but it still need to be sealed. You still need to paint it in this scenario where this has got a water resistant surface on it already for using concrete. So this will essentially already be sealed. I'm not going to paint it, it's already black, sort of black dark tones in the kitchen already, so it'll suit. All I'm going to do is paint the edges, what they're going to be seen, and paint them black to sort of make it match, and it'll come up schmick. So I think this will actually be a better product in this scenario. If you had painted the marine ply, it'd be 6 of one, half of the other. I think it's sort of much for muchness, but this is just easier. I was going to probably paint the cabinetry black anyway inside there to sort of make it hide stains and that sort of thing. So this will be easy to clean as well. You don't have any like wood grain. It's very smooth to the touch, so it'll come up really nicely. All right, so this is a bit of aluminium flat bar. Looks to be like 8mm by 75mm flat bar. That's going to be my straight edge. You've got the clamps here. I'm going to use that as a guide for my saw, so I get nice, clean, straight cuts. So that's all the drawer carcasses and drawers fitted. It worked out pretty well. I thought I allowed plenty of room to sort of get the carcasses in around the frame, and it worked out. This one was a bit snug, but the other one was had to do a bit of modification too, take a couple of screws out of the frame, of the steel frame that was holding the sheet metal on. But I got it in there. The drawers are all fitted well. These ones run like nice and smoothly. These are a bit of a lighter duty sort of drawer. The ones down behind me are like a heavy duty drawer slide. They can take 100 odd kilos, I think they can, but they're a bit more harder to push in. But these are the drawers we'll be using on a more of a day-to-day basis. It'd be cutlery, plates, bowls, cups, that sort of deal. The bin in here has worked out well, so I've still got room at the back of it here for a little bucket, little bin to take recycling, cans, that sort of stuff. It's worked out pretty well. So now we've got to go through and face it all with the blue gum. So I'll go and show you the hardwood that we're using for that, the blue gum for that, and we'll start cutting it up and talk about fitting it. All right, this is the timber we're using for the drawer and door faces on the kitchen. It's some blue gum. It actually come from the property. We had a big blue gum tree in the dam, or where we're building the dam. We decided to cut it down before it sort of rotted away and fell down and became a big problem to get out. So decided to use up that timber. I've used it for garden edging, and I've got the big bench top out there, like the big bar at the back there that I've used it for. That was the bottom slab off the log we used. This was originally milled into 150 by 50 sort of sleepers. I've taken it back up to the fella up at Yungala, up the mountain from where I am, to sort of turn it into more like a plank. So it's worked out to be about a 21, 22 mil thick by 145 mil wide plank. As it turns out, with the size of all the drawers and doors, the most common sort of size, I'm cutting it the width down to about 132. So I rip it all down to the rough right size, so you don't end up with too many boards that are skinny or a bit dicky at the end. We'll have one or two of those where we can't really help it, but time to start cutting.
Back when I made the steel frame for the kitchen, I also made some steel frames for the doors to fix the hardwood faces too. If you don't have the tools or the ability to weld, you could certainly make these doors just using timber. I use the steel frame mainly to help prevent unwanted movement and sagging of the doors in the future, but in reality it's probably not really required. All right, that's all done. That was a lot of work to get through in a 20-minute video. So if you've got any questions on how or why I did something, just leave a comment down below and I'll get back to you there. We gave the area a bit of a test run yesterday
and everything worked really well. It's great having everything I need in its spot at my fingertips when I'm out here cooking. If you've made it this far, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.